All right, let's begin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for tonight's webinar from the University of King's College, all about financial aid. My name is Jolana Wassersug. I'm Assistant Registrar Student Recruitment at King's, and I'm joined tonight by my two lovely colleagues that you can see here on screen. Kathy Reed works with me in the King's Registrar's Office as Assistant Registrar Institutional Research and Awards, and Charlene Salter works in our Bursar's Office at King's. She's the Student Accounts Officer. Before we get into any content at all, I'm just going to share all three of the email addresses for your three panelists tonight in the chat. So if you need to log off early and you have other questions, or you'd like to know how to reach us with a question that's really specific to you and your circumstances, you can always write to us. So my email address is yolana.wassersug, my full name, at ukings.ca. And I've just put that in the chat. If you want to reach Charlene, our Student Accounts Officer, with any questions about tuition payments, loans, any of those types of things, you're going to want to reach accounts@ukings.ca, which you can see in the chat. And if you want to reach Kathy Reed to talk about things like scholarships or bursaries, her email address is awards@ukings.ca. So those are great ways to get in touch if you'd like to know more about anything that we're going to cover in tonight's webinar. Without further ado, I'm going to get us started by sharing my screen tonight. And I also wanted to mention that the webinar we're doing this evening is going to be recorded. So if you need to log out for any reason, if you're kind of missing key content, you can always check out that recording. I'm going to email it to everyone tomorrow. Okay, so hopefully you can now all see my screen. So instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation for tonight's webinar, we really just want to show you some key places on the King's website that you can go to find useful information. So right now I'm at the main homepage of our website, ukings.ca. And I just wanted to point out, since we're all here, we're recording this webinar on February 8th, and coming up very soon on February 25th, is our winter open house. You can see a button right in the middle of the home screen. The winter open house is a great opportunity to come visit the campus in person, take a campus tour, meet some professors, meet some current students, have lunch in the dining hall. There's all sorts of things that you can do at the winter open house. One of the big ones is if you are a grade 12 student who has not applied to King's yet and you'd like to apply, you can get a waived application fee at the winter open house. So I'll just put in a plug for that event while we're on the screen. But I actually want to start by letting Kathy Reed take over and talk to us a little bit about, primarily about bursaries. If you're looking for this information on our website, you'll hit the admissions tab in the main menu. Then you will hit finances. And then I'll just point out here, you'll see a section that says scholarships and awards. Tonight is really more about financial aid than it is about scholarships, although if Kathy wants to speak a little bit to scholarships, please do. And I'll just mention, we actually did a whole webinar session last week all about scholarships, and I can also share the video to that event with anyone who registered today. If you're an undergraduate, which most of you are, undergraduate students, scholarships are here, graduate and advanced students are here. But if we want to talk about bursaries, we're going to go to the financial aid tab, and you can see all that bursary information right here. So Kathy, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so hi everybody. Before we start talking about bursaries, Yoli did mention that there has already been a scholarship webinar, but I will just hit a couple of highlights about the scholarships before we go on to talk about the bursaries. So on our scholarship page, there is a list of the major scholarships for which you can apply. And though there's a deadline of March 1 for all of those, and you can see that there's a number of different awards that you can apply for, and the drop-down menu beside each little award will give you more details about each scholarship. So those are the larger awards that you can apply to. But scrolling back up, there was a little section about general scholarships, which we will award to applicants who are admitted with specific grade ranges that you can see in the little table. And there's nothing that you need to do besides make sure that we have your grades from your first term studies, and we will assess your average and automatically send out an offer based on your grades. So the offers come out by email. And so you just make sure that you check your email from time to time. And if you are eligible for a merit-based scholarship, you will receive notification, the email address that you provided to us. Okay, so that's scholarships. So scholarships are mostly, especially the general scholarships, are based on your high school grades. But bursaries are awards that we provide to students based on financial need alone. So your grades don't enter into it at all. And the purpose of bursaries is to really address any small amount of unmet need that students have after they've exhausted all their other sources of funding, including student loans or gifts from parents, scholarships, bank education loans, that kind of thing. So all students who are full-time at King's are eligible to apply for a bursary and be assessed. And we have a general bursary application form, which you can see here, and Yoli can bring that up on the screen. So there's a lot of preamble on the first page, but our main, the main thing we need to receive from students is sort of an assessment of the available resources they have and the expenses that they estimate they're going to have. So there's sort of some general information that we collect from students, and so nothing is too complicated on the second page. And then as we scroll down to the third page, we have sort of budget information. So this is really just to give us an idea of the difference between what you have and what you need. So not all the information is applicable to all students, but we like to get as much information as we can in these little boxes here. And not only does it help us to sort of give an idea of your financial status and how much we might need to provide to give you a little bit of a boost, but it also gives you an idea of kind of the expenses that you might be expected to come up with in the year, and give you an idea of, in your own mind, just where you stand. So that's the budget information. That really that's the most important information that we collect. And once we look at that, we kind of come up with an idea of how much we think we can give to you, just to give you a little bit of a boost. So I think that's pretty much it. It's not too complicated. I make decisions on a rolling basis, so there's no deadline to apply. You can apply at any time during the term. So if you find yourself a little bit short at some time during the term, or your tuition is more than you had anticipated, or you have an unexpected expense that you hadn't planned on, there's the opportunity to apply is always there. And so there's no hard and fast amount that we provide. It's on a case-by-case basis, and I try to work as closely as I can with you to make sure that we can help you out as best we can. So I think that's it for the bursaries. If you think of any questions for the chat, Yoli will let me know. And even if you don't think of any questions tonight, if you think of any questions in the meantime, you can always email me at any time at awards@ukings.ca. So I think that's all we need to know about bursaries for now.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Charlene to talk to us a little bit about student loans. If you're looking for this information on the website, again, you can go to admissions, finances, financial aid, and you'll see, scholarships, bursaries, and of course, student loans. All right, Charlene, over to you.
Perfect, thank you. So basically, students apply for a student loan online through the province that you're a permanent resident of. So for example, if you're from Ontario and you're coming to King's in September, you would apply through the Ontario Student Loan website known as OSAP. And basically you're going to, for all students who apply for a student loan, there's only one application. And again, it's through the province you're a permanent resident of. And when it asks for your university, you would put down University of King's College. Basically, you should apply 2 months before the start of your term. So as you know, school will start in September. So by the beginning of July, you should have already applied online. And this is just so that, any supplementary documentation that's required of the student loan office from you, you can provide that to them in time to ensure that your student loan will arrive on time. So we recommend that students check their online application profile on a weekly basis once they have submitted it. Don't wait for them to contact you. Be proactive and keep checking your online application once you have submitted it. So basically how it works is that if you are awarded a student loan and it arrives in time, that would usually be about mid-August, but don't worry, they trickle in thereafter. But if you've done everything on time, it should come mid-August. And then at that point, usually about a week before, so at the second week of August, we'll send an email out to all the students to say, we will start funding student loans. And usually it's about the third week of August. So make sure your registration is up to date. If you make changes thereafter, that's fine. It's that you will have to make sure you pay that before the term due date. So when we start signing student loans in August, we'll look at your student accounts and we'll look at how much you owe. If your student loan is more than that, we only take what's owing on your student account. The difference of your loan from your student account will go in your personal bank account. On the flip side, if your student loan is not enough to cover your student account, you will have to pay that difference by the term due date. All right. Then if you want to go to fully funded, maybe Oli. Yeah, there's just more. They're all, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So there is all the links for all the different provinces and territories. And on that page, it gives you what I've just said, plus just other useful information. If it's your first time borrowing and things like that, there's great resources on that page. But in terms of your student account, that's basically how it works. We take care of it on our end. And if you have any questions, you can certainly email me for sure. So next we'll go to being fully funded. And so basically what that means is if you are sponsored or going to be fully funded by an external organization, your account is confidential. So basically what we have is called a third-party information form. So basically you would go right here to the website, click on it, get the form, and have the external organization fill it out, as well as yourself, and then you will email it back to me or ensure that the external organization has emailed it to me. So when in doubt, you can reach out to me and say, hey, did you get it yet? Or you may ask the external organization to email it back to you, and then so that you can give it to me via email. So that might be better. And basically what we do is once we get that, we will invoice them on your behalf based on what they're going to cover. And that's filled out on the form. So we do not send invoices out until after the term due date, because that is also the last day to add and drop courses. So there's no sense sending out an invoice when you may add another course, etc. So the Monday after the due date, we will send the invoices out and put on your account what's called a deferment. And that gives it 30 more days to come in without any late fees or interest on your student account. So if Yoli wants to scroll up, this is a great website, web page to find out other external funding. And what we always tell students is, it's really important to ask your guardians if their employment has any scholarships for students. And we always tell students, contact like local churches, organizations you're involved with, any volunteer work that you do, any other companies that you may be indirectly affiliated with, or your family members. And that could be anything from grandparents with the Legion, the Knights of Columbus, your town, anything like that. So just start brainstorming, going through this website. There's other great ones we're not directly related to or endorsed, but we've had students tell us they've had great success with Scholarships Canada and Wyconic. Wyconic is very interesting because you can enter in your interests, your hobbies, and all that stuff, and then they'll be sending you emails of scholarships that you may be interested in. So we've had students who've had success with that website. So how it works with your student account in terms of external scholarships, if you have an external scholarship and it's a check and it's in your name, you can come into the student accounts office in the fall and just sign the back and endorse it over to us. If you have a letter and it's saying that, we want to send the university a check, and it says your name and the amount, you can email that to me or drop it off at the office. And what we'll do is, if the money is not going to be sent by the term due date, we'll put on your account, again, what's called a deferment, and we'll give it 30 more days for it to come in. But again, the letter needs to be provided to us before the term due date. It must state your name and the amount and that the check is coming to us and not directly to the student. And then basically, yeah, we'll apply it to your student account. The other thing is some scholarship letters will say, hey, we need to know that you're actually going to King's. So why don't you tell us that? And then we'll give you your money. So basically what you would do is get a confirmation of enrollment online, and then you would give that to the external organization. But again, when in doubt, you can provide me with a copy of your letter, and we'll use that almost as a prepayment on your student account. If your student account is paid and the money comes in after, it will be a credit on your student account, and that can go towards the winter term. So if you see a negative number on your student account, it means a credit. So that can go towards the winter term. If the check arrives and your account's already paid and the check is in your name, you can keep the check. Or if you want, you can still sign it over to your student account, use it towards the winter term, and have that credit sit there to go towards your winter term tuition and fees. So the other big thing I get asked is RESPs. How do I get them? How does it work? So if you have an RESP, what you want to do is contact the financial investment company that you have signed on with. So basically you want to ask them, how do I get this money out? And usually it's one of three things. They want a confirmation of enrollment, which is something the students can get online on their online account, or they'll want a statement. And that's again, something the students can get online themselves, or they will have their own specific form that they want you to fill out. So if that is the case, and you look at the form and it's just saying, are you going to King's? When is your start and stop date for the academic year? So basically it's almost like a confirmation of enrollment. That would be with the King's registrar's office. So they will be more than glad to help. If there is a financial section, meaning how much your tuition and fees, that would be me. So you bring the form up to me and I would complete that for you. All right. And then we'll go to payments, how to find out how much I owe. So this payments guide is a great website. This, as you will see right here, this is the current academic year. We don't roll over on our website to the upcoming academic year until early May. So this is where you will go and find the due date for the fall and the winter. And like I said, it'll be early May. You'll be able to see that date. So the first one there is check your tuition balance and or obtain a statement. So basically, students have full access to their student account online. And these are the first is how to get your current balance. So these are 6 steps that students can take to get their current student account balance. So similar to when you go into your bank and you want to see real time right now, right to this moment today, how much is in my bank? Well, this is what happens with your current balance. A lot of students will stop at step 4. Step 4 is just telling you what your tuition and incidental fees are. It is not your student account balance. And so many people do not read the fine print that says you must continue step 5 and step 6 to get your current student account balance. And why is that? When you get to step 5 and 6, it's going to reassess, and then it's going to show you residence costs, your scholarships. So if you go online, you say, I don't see my scholarship, I don't see my residence costs. You haven't gone through step 5 and 6. I cannot stress that enough. Okay. So step 1 through 6, anytime during the year, that's where you'll get to go and see your full student account. Now, in August and in December, you'll get an email at your university email account that will say, hey, do you want to look at your statement? It's online. Following through with the next 4 steps will get you your statement. And that's fine. But I always tell students, a statement is a snapshot of your student account at a certain date at a certain time. Then right after that, whatever happens, your statement's kind of obsolete, to be honest. If you add a course the next day, if you drop a course the next day, it's no longer valid. I mean, it is in terms of information. So some people use it to get that RESP, and that's fine. But in terms of you paying your student account on time, the first 6 steps are what you really want to look at. Okay, so just make sure you keep that in mind. And when in doubt, you can always contact me and I'll be able to help you. Sometimes for the first little bit, when you go online into your student account, it can look confusing. So getting familiar with it and contacting me and us working through it, that's what I'm here for, to be able to help you. Okay. So then beyond that, we look at paying for tuition and fees, and how do you pay? So pay tuition and fees in terms of your student account. It is only one. So tuition, incidental fees, residence, and meal plan is one student account. So when you're making a payment, one transaction is fine for the whole thing. So you do not have to pay your student account before you arrive. Some people think that they have to pay before the residence move-in day or the first day of orientation. You do not, okay? As I said, the due dates will be up early May. Normally the fall is like the third Friday in September, and the winter is normally around the second Friday in January. So again, this is usually around the second Friday in January for the winter and around the third Friday in September for the fall term. So payment can be check, money order, bank draft, debit, in person. The biggest is online bill payment, where you go into your personal bank account as if you're going to pay your heat or light bill, and then you would add a payee. So we're set up with all the major banks in Canada, and you would just enter in University of King's College. Your account number is your student ID number, your B00, and then the amount. So a lot of people before COVID, and especially during COVID, will pay that way. And again, as we talk about student loans and student line of credits, those are other ways to pay. We work per term. Like I just said, the fall term is September to December. And the winter term is January to April. So again, the fall is September to December. The winter is January to April. Students will receive an email at their university email account, like I just said, saying that your statement can be viewed online. It'll give you due date. So just make sure you check your university email throughout the whole academic year on a daily or even weekly basis. We can't stress that enough. Failure to pay one student account. So basically, you can still attend your classes. You can, if you're in residence, you can still live in residence. You can still eat the meals. We just ask that you contact us to work out and let us know what's going on. See if we can help you in any way with student loan problems. External scholarship hasn't arrived yet. What's going on? We are there to help. However, there will be late fees and interest on the student account. But again, we just ask students to just kind of touch base with me, because we're always there to help, and we're glad to be able to help. And I think that's basically it. Yeah, like it is one student account. So if you're making a payment, you only have to do one. And then as Yoli's going down here, there are some other things that we do have here, like post-care tuition waivers, senior citizen waivers. International students can pay through Convera. It's indirectly through Western Union, and it's paid directly through to Dalhousie. We do share the same system as Dalhousie. So while we do encourage regular payments to come through to King's, international students can pay through Convera directly through to Dalhousie. All right, so then I guess the last is access to financial information. This is huge. It's really hard because I know that a lot of students have guardians that will be paying their student account, but the Freedom of Information and Protection Act in Canada is there to just that. It's there to protect students. So we have to follow that. And it's a legal thing that we have to do. So basically, students have full access to the student account online, and students can obtain any information they want, and they can provide it to a third party or a guardian at their discretion. If a student wants a guardian to have access to their student account, they can email me from their university email account only, and they must include the guardian's name and the guardian's email address. And all that means is that if a guardian emails me, phones me, or drops into the office with a student present, we can discuss the student account. At no time do we initiate contact with a third party. This is for convenience only. It'll stay on the student's record until the student asks us to remove it, or their graduation will just stay on there after that. But basically, yeah, it's just for convenience only. So it's not required for payment. And I think there's a misconception with that I need to do this in order to get my account paid. You don't. You have full access to your student account online. Once you find the amount owing, you can turn to your guardian and tell them how much it is, or show them, and payment can be made as noted above. So again, this is just a convenience factor. So basically that's it for me. Yoli will give you our information, which she already gave you, the email accounts at ukings.ca. Always feel free to email me. There's nothing, no question too silly. You know, you'll be learning something, right? And that's what we want. We want people to reach out to help. We're always here to help.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I know that we probably have people wanting to ask questions, and I promise that we'll get to questions very soon. I have two other quick topics to cover before we get into questions. One is that when we're talking about financing education and costs and fees, something that I get asked about pretty often is health and dental plans. So I just wanted to share a little bit of information about that. If you're a King student, you'll be automatically enrolled in a health and dental plan that's covered, or that's administered and run by the King's Student Union, or KSU. So the King's Student Union are a great organization on campus. They are basically our student government. And if you go to ksu.ca, you can see all of the interesting things that they do. The student executive, they run the societies, or like the student clubs and activities on campus. They also run O Week, Orientation Week, which is a really fun week-long pile of events that you can do when you first start on campus. But for our purposes, just talking about financial planning, you can see the health and dental tab here to learn more about what's covered. But for plenty of our students, you may also already have health or dental coverage through another provider. And so you may wish to opt out of this coverage, which you can do. There are detailed instructions here about how to opt out. The main thing is that there's a timeline on this. So you can opt out between September 1st and the day that payments for the fall term are due, which is, like Charlene said, usually around the third week in September. So there's a period there where opt-out is possible. And so that's something you might want to keep in mind if that's not something that not coverage that you need. And then finally, before we get into Q&As, I also want to mention student employment. When you're thinking about your financial planning for university, thinking about how you might want to factor in a part-time job while you're a student might be a part of the arithmetic that you're doing. We at King's really like it and value it and appreciate it when students are able to have jobs on our campus. You can obviously have a job off campus while you're a student as well, but there are some really great opportunities to work while you're a student. And so if you want to learn more about that, if you go to our website and go to the campus and community tab, you'll be able to see the employment page. And if you go to the employment page, you will see student employment opportunities. And I'll show you what's up there right now. But of course, new student job opportunities are being posted all the time. There's always different opportunities for students to work on campus. There are 2 fully student-run businesses on our campus. The Galley Cafe, which you're seeing a picture of in front of you, is one of them. And so is the Wardroom, which is our campus bar. There's all sorts of different opportunities. So for example, right now, we're looking for a patrol staff. We're looking for a front desk person for our conference services team in the summer. We're looking for a content writer for a cool project with Atlantic Books. There are a lot of really interesting job opportunities on campus. If you are an international student, there will be limitations on how many hours outside of your study you are allowed to work, and those limitations will be printed on your student visa. So that's an important criteria to keep in mind. In general, no matter where you're from, whether you're an international student or a Canadian student, it's important that you think carefully about how many hours you would want to spend in a part-time job so that they don't interfere with your studies. And that's a bit of a balancing act. But typically, I think that 10, 15 hours a week can be manageable for many students. Once you're getting in the 20 hours a week range, that starts to be unmanageable for many students. And of course, that really depends on you and what the job is and what your personality is like. But that's something to think about if you're thinking about how you're going to balance your education. In terms of on-campus jobs, I wanted to mention too, like I said, at King's, we have a lot of opportunities. 1 in 3 students on our campus has a cool on-campus job, which is very exciting. And if you want to see more about that, obviously you can go to this webpage, but I'll also just mention, if you want to follow them on Instagram, UKC_KELP, KELP, is the Instagram account for the King's Experiential Learning Program. Experiential learning is a bit of a catch-all term that covers all sorts of work-integrated learning opportunities, such as co-op programs, fellowships, internship opportunities, on-campus jobs, hands-on learning, fieldwork, all sorts of things. The UKC KELP account has really good advice about building your resume, getting career ready, connecting you to career opportunities, networking, all sorts of valuable tips. So I highly recommend them. I think they have some great programs. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if we have any questions that are coming in. Just 1 second while I drink a sip of water. So if you have a question, you can use the chat feature. You can use the Q&A button. You can also, if your question is something you don't feel like asking in this webinar format, you can email us. Again, accounts@ukings.ca is the way to reach Charlene. Awards@ukings.ca reaches Kathy. Wow, I really thought there would be a landslide of questions. It's okay if you want to think about them. Give it a moment. Oh my goodness. Kathy, Charlene, this is not what I was expecting, but I'm glad we covered it all. Okay, here we go. We have one in the Q&A. Okay, so does King's or Dal offer financial counseling for students who get into trouble? It's a really good question. Charlene, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, so basically, that's what Kathy and I are there for. So sometimes your financial plan does not go the way you planned. And that's when Kathy and I step up and try and help as best we can. So that would go back to if you're having student loan problems, we are always there to help. We have, for most provinces, I have inside contacts that we can help. So if it's a student loan problem and you've tried to reach out to them and you haven't heard back or whatever, you can certainly reach out to me. And if it's deemed that it's we need to get more involved and into it, we certainly will help. Like I said, external scholarships will be able to help you with that. At the end of the day, it would be bursaries between Kathy and myself. We would ask you to apply for a bursary, and then we'll get the information from you there. And then Kathy will reach out to me. We'll look at your student account, see what's going on, and then Kathy will reach out to the student. So there are ways to help, and there are resources, and Kathy and I are certainly there to help you.
I think I just want to jump right in right now and say that one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would like to give and hope that you will hear is that you should never wait to the last minute until you're so into trouble that it seems really, really dire. Often we can help you out almost instantly. It may even just be a paperwork mistake that we can help you with. And so please know that there's you can always come in and ask a question, and it's better to jump in and ask sooner rather than later. So don't wait so that you get to a situation where that's all you can think about and it's distracting you from your studies or things like that. So we really want to encourage you to come and speak to us at any time.
I'll give you an example. I had a student this year who couldn't understand why he didn't get the student loan amount that he felt he should. Now, sometimes it happens that you don't. There's other resources and equity that you have that will bring down your student loan. And again, it's a calculation that the student loan office does. We have no part in the application at all. But he couldn't understand it. And when he was giving me information, I'm like, okay, this sounds legit. Yeah, he's right. If everything is truthful, and we do take it in good faith that what the student is telling us is truthful. And so when I called the student loan office, the inside people that I am able to contact, we went through a little bit of information, and we found out that the student had put in the total of his awards for the 4 years. So when you're doing a student loan application for the academic year, it's only one academic year. You apply every single year. So the student had put in the full value of the scholarship as opposed to putting in for the 1 year value of the scholarship. So you can imagine the resources was a lot higher than it really was. And when we came to that determination, all they said to me was, what, let's get this done faster. You just send me an email confirming how much the student has for total awards for this current academic year. And I did, and the student loan came through within 2 business days. So again, like Kathy said, don't wait till it's too late. If something doesn't look right or something's off, reach out to me or Kathy right away. We're here to help.
Just to add to that one other little piece, there's a small section on our website that just has some basic information about financial literacy. So things like understanding how to make a budget, things to know about having credit cards, Looking at some of those pieces of financial literacy information can help you feel a little more prepared for navigating these types of conversations. So that's one useful, helpful resource that's right on our website. Another resource that I often recommend is, I'm sharing in the chat right now, is a free ebook called Transitions. This ebook was created by a psychologist who's no longer works at Dalhousie, but used to. Now he's a senator, Stan Kutcher. And this psychologist worked with a team of researchers to prepare this ebook that is available for free in both English and French, and provides all sorts of tips about making the transition from high school to university. There's an entire chapter in this book that's just about budgeting and family matters. So that part can be really helpful. It's worthwhile to have these conversations potentially with as a family or as a family unit with the people that might be supporting you in your education. Okay, so we have another question that's come in here, a couple. So we have a question that says, are there additional funding opportunities for student athletes? Okay, great question. So the short answer is yes, there's some specific scholarships that are available to student athletes, and I can tell you a little bit more about those. In fact, maybe the easiest way to do this is to share my screen again and go over to the scholarship page. So bear with me 1 second. Okay. So hopefully now you're seeing the King's website again. And if you take a look over on the scholarships page, scholarships and awards, new undergraduate students, you can scroll down to all of these different major awards. And if you are a student athlete who's going to be playing for one of the King's varsity teams, and you are also a student in with sort of demonstrated academic aptitude, a student who's going to be doing the foundation year program at King's, then you may be eligible for one of these substantial Deborah Dean Little and Robert Little academic scholarships for varsity athletes. So those are some pretty big awards that are worth looking into. These awards do not require a separate application form, but they do require a recommendation from the director of athletics. So one tip that I would have is that if you are a student that knows you're going to be doing foundation year program, you're interested in scholarships, and you are very interested about one of our varsity teams, it would be to your benefit to make sure that the coach and the director of athletics, that they know who you are and that you're on their radar. So the way to get on their radar is to hit this varsity recruitment form and tell us that you're interested in our varsity teams. Tell us you want to be a King's Blue Devil. That is one of the key pieces you would need to do before March 1st if you want to be considered for one of those forms. In general, I would recommend, if you have been talking to a coach from one of our athletics teams, if you are concerned about finances, I'd recommend telling them about that so that they can give you some advice from their point of view about funding that might be available. Kathy, is there anything you want to add to this question about funding for athletes?
Yes, so yes, I recommend that there are also some general athletic awards that the coach and the athletic director, the coaches and the athletic director will give out every year. So those are not necessarily renewable, they're year after year, but it, again, to make sure that you talk to the coach of the team that you're interested in, and they'll work with the athletic director to see if there's anything they can do for you. So
absolutely. There's another question that came in the chat here, and it says, I joined a little webinar a little late. You might have answered this earlier. Can a student apply for a loan after their first year of study, even if they did not require it in first year? Charlene, do you want to take that one?
For sure. Yeah, I myself did that. So yeah, you don't need to have a student loan every single year. You can apply one in the first year and you may not need it in the second, third, but you may need it in the fourth, or you may not need it in the first year, but you need it in the third, 100%. The biggest thing to remember is that if you do apply for a student loan and you do need one the next academic year, you have to apply again. But certainly no, any year you want one, you certainly can. If you don't have to.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, let's just wait a moment. Oh, I think another question has come in. Are bursaries / scholarships based on grade level used just once or for each year? Okay, so I'll let Kathy speak to this more, but one thing I want to clarify right away about this question is that bursaries are not based on grades in any way at all. Bursaries are based entirely on financial need. There are, however, scholarships which are based on grades. So Kathy, would you like to explain how we kind of assess the way the grades are used in first year versus the way they're used for returning students in subsequent years?
Sure. So I'm not going to bother turning my camera on. You don't need to see me now. So we offer we offer scholarships for a full 4-year period based on your grade when you from high school. So it's divided into 2 parts. There's the entrance scholarship, which is the amount that we offer you in grade 12. And then we offer you an amount for each year for 3 more years, contingent upon your achieving a scholarship level GPA, which is an A-. So which is anyway, so there's nothing you need to do about that except achieve that grade, and I assess all students every year, usually in early to mid-May, after all the grades are finalized, and I will notify students that their scholarship has renewed. So generally awards, so when we send out an entrance award letter, we'll give you the full 4-year amount and then break it up and tell you how much is for each of the 4 years. So the one thing about the scholarships is we give a full amount. We do say renewability is contingent on grades, but I assess everybody every year. So if you have a rough first year or rough second year, or something happens and you don't get the appropriate GPA in that year, you don't lose the entire award. You get another crack at it the following year. So it's not all or nothing. So it's generally essentially I look at every student every year to see how they've done, and then we make a decision then.
Yeah, that was a great question. Okay. I'll just wait a moment just to see if any other questions trickle in. While we're waiting, I'll give a piece of general advice. Kathy and Charlene and I were actually talking about this earlier today. Sometimes we get questions from students that are not sure about whether or not applying for a loan is something they want to do. And so some things to consider, perhaps, if you're on the fence. Some of our provincial loan organizations, in fact, many of them also have grants that are available. So when you fill out that application for a student loan, they might come back and tell you you're not eligible for a loan. They might come back and tell you that you are eligible for a loan. They might come back and tell you that a certain percentage of the money they want to give you is going to be a grant and not a loan, just a grant that you don't have to pay back. You will not find out unless you apply. So if you're curious about whether or not you're going to be eligible for a loan, or if you're going to be getting any grants, the only way to find out is to apply. It's worth doing the application. I know it's a lot of work, but you want to have that information. If you can do the application and then not take the loan, that's another thing to keep in mind. You do not need to take it, but we do think it's kind of worth applying, especially because if you're going to be filling out a bursary application from King's, like we said, bursaries are based on demonstrated financial need. Doing that loan application is one of the ways you demonstrate financial need. So worth doing. Okay. Wow. If there are no other questions, then I think we should wrap up. We don't want to take too much of your time. We know we gave you a lot of information. So I'm just going to reiterate the email addresses where you can reach us. Again, if you have questions about bursaries or scholarships, you're going to want to reach Kathy at awards@ukings.ca. And we'll just remind you again, there's an important scholarship deadline coming up very soon on March 1st. If you have questions about loans, about student accounts, about how to make payments, about, really anything related to your finances while you're a student, a good first person to talk to is Charlene, and you can reach her at accounts@ukings.ca. There's also some parts of this process that you will learn and figure out as you're a student. Once you've been accepted and you confirm your spot, your admission deposit, and you start setting up your online accounts, you'll discover there's lots of useful information that you can do yourself, that you can find online, and we can help you with that in the registrar's office. So please don't hesitate to get in touch anytime. And finally, I'll follow up tomorrow with an email that has some useful links and a recording of this webinar. So you don't have to memorize the information. You can always go back and check again if you're curious about any of that. Kathy, Charlene, thank you both so much for joining me tonight for this and for sharing all of your insight and information with the students who logged on, or for the students who are watching this later on YouTube. And again, please do get in touch. I think Charlene used this exact phrase, we're here to help. It's very true. We're here to help. We want to help guide you through this process. Have a great evening, everyone. Take care. And thanks for signing on tonight. Bye.